From Boca Raton, Florida, this is Behind the Bima. On this episode, the rabbis are joined by Rabbi David Aaron, a renowned Jewish philosopher and educator. Recognized for his deep insights into Jewish spirituality and personal growth, Rabbi Aaron delves into the themes of self-awareness and the quest for inner peace. Rabbi Aaron shares his views on the spiritual challenges of our time, the transformative power of faith, and the importance of connecting with our heritage and tradition. Plus, reflecting on contemporary ethical dilemmas and the role of the Jewish community in addressing global issues. All this and more, Behind the Bima.
Welcome back Behind the Bima, joined by my dear friend and colleague, Rabbi Joshua Brody. Not here in Boca. Rabbi Brody coming to us from
the land of Israel.
the land of Israel.
I'm in a mamad here, actually.
Nice.
Yeah.
And maybe this is a little bit, you're there right now because Baruch Hashem, you're making a wedding. Mazal tov. We're so
Thank you.
with your family, and I'm sure it's going to be incredible. We can't wait to hear and see all about it. But also very forbearing for what is to come, not only for this week, but for your future, Rabbi Brody. What announcement would you like to make on Behind the Bima?
Breaking news. Can we bring the breaking news?
Should we bring the breaking news back?
We haven't had that in a couple of years now.
The breaking news. I don't even know where it is anymore. Yeah. Breaking news. Hold on. Where do we find that? Breaking news. What's the breaking news?
So in the meantime, as we're finding the breaking news, this is a number of years in the making. I think we're about 5 years into this. And then it was 4 years, and then 3 years, and 2 years. And then all of a sudden, it's this year. We're
home to Troy. There it is.
I love that.
Breaking
this
news.
is an exclusive. This is a Behind the Bima exclusive. Coming to you live from Israel. The Brodies are going to be making Aliyah this summer. Yeah.
The Brodies are making Aliyah. That is big news. It was released to the community. Big save the date for us to be able to say thank you and have a wonderful event to show our gratitude to the Brodies. 25 years of impact in BRS. So tell us what's the plan? Where are you going to be living? When are you going? What are you going to be doing?
So we'll start with what are we doing, because that's the most important thing to me. We're doing two things. Number one, we're going to be spending more time with our kids who are all in Israel right now. The 4 older ones and their spouses and children. And what we're going to be doing also is working in Boca. So Baruch Hashem, I've had the very exciting opportunity to have a wonderful family sponsor much of the work that we do here in Boca through the Federation. And now we're going to do it direct. We're going to go direct and continue hopefully some of the very special programs we've been working on.
Amazing. So you'll be back and forth. Any idea yet the frequency of how you'll be back and forth?
It depends who you ask. If you ask the wonderful Silver family, it might be frequent. If you ask Simone, it's probably maybe once a year, and it'd probably be somewhere in between. You know?
So you're going to pull a Josh Brody where you'll be like, Simone, I'll be back in a minute.
Exactly.
Hear something? And go to America for a few days? Is that
it's different when you say I'm going to Publix or the Grove Kosher Market. Like I'll be back in about 20 minutes and I'm at a shear or at something. Here it's about 13, 14 hours.
So breaking news. Do you know where you're going to
figure it out? No. I hope to start in a community that I know you're very familiar with called Modi'in, the Buchman Moriah area.
Nice.
We have some very special friends and you have some great family there. Hopefully we're going to become good friends very quickly. And it's an exciting
landing.
Yeah. Very soft. We said we're doing soft because people, you got to be Israeli and move into an Israeli community. Listen, my grandkids are going to be Israeli. They're all going to speak Hebrew. I need a little bit more English. And one thing, listen, a little bit of advice that we got from everyone. I think everyone gave the same advice. Is if your wife is happy, your kids will be happy. If your kids are happy, you'll be happy. I don't know. There's something that keeps going, but it comes back to your wife.
Happy wife, happy life.
So I just want her to be happy. So we're going to be doing that.
We're inspired. We are impressed. We're grateful. We're blown away. And it's a beautiful thing, the fulfillment and the realization of a dream. And the best part for us is that we're not losing you. You'll be going back and forth.
No, not at all.
Your impact and imprint on our community. And breaking news too is that we're going to be continuing the relationship in the other direction, which is Rabbi Brody will still be part of BRS and be our BRS person in Israel. So when we go on missions, when we're checking in our kids in their gap year, but Rabbi Brody will be representing BRS in Israel, and he'll be coming back here. And it's another step in creating that bridge between our community and Israel, which is all of our country.
First of all, I can already picture it. I forgot the name of the correspondent. He's the guy on Fox that's all over the place with the
Yeah.
helmet. He always wears like,
Yeah,
you know what
yeah.
I'm talking about?
Sure.
I'll be that guy. Trey
Great,
Hanks,
great
right?
chance.
I'll be that guy for you when there's some breaking news. I'll just drive out there. We'll go behind the Bima. I'll get my
Nice.
helmet on.
Nice.
We'll
Hopefully
give it to you live.
there'll be no more helmets, but it's really an amazing thing, and we're so
Right.
excited. So this past Motzei Shabbos was very emotional for you, except that you don't get emotional. So instead, it was emotional for
It's
me.
getting a little emotional.
A little
I
bit.
gotta
You're
be honest.
sort of as close as you come, which is to say, like a yeka on a freezing cold day. But it was still, closer than I've ever seen you. But tell everybody about Vishnant Levanecha's incredible program going on many years and what happened on this past Motzei Shabbos.
Yeah, it's a very special program. First of all, I didn't start the program. It started before me, 2 or 3 years. Rabbi
We're only saying that in
Kilstein.
case Howard Goldfish is watching.
Right, that Howard Goldfisher, you started the program. It's actually funny because in Baltimore, we were running a program at the same time before we moved here. I think the name of the program in Baltimore, I always liked it a little bit more, just it was a little bit more my style.
Right.
The funniest part was that it was being run in Aguda, and we used to call Motzei Shabbos Live. So I just loved that. But we kept the live from Boca Raton. It's Motzei Shabbos to have that little bit of the old flavor. But it's a wonderful program. It's a program for children and their parents and their grandparents, young children. We say 8 and younger, 7 and younger, and it's just you come out. I think it's something similar to what our special guest believes, is that it's Judaism, as we're going to hear, sometimes gets a little bit of a negative brand, right? So about the pain, and you probably come up with better synonyms than I can. So why not from a very young age already get the kids excited about nothing more than just going to shul with your family and enjoying, and like enjoying the Torah. Maybe you're just coloring because you're a year or two old. Maybe you're doing something else. But I really believe that the singing that we do together, it really touches places. It's powerful to hear all these kids. I don't know that they all know that they're singing what they're singing. That's the age where you kind of probably don't even know the correct words, but it's loud and people like they're all participating. And
the best part is when you're running Vishinantam, which this week was packed. Often on Motzei Shabbos, we have a speaker, we're showing a film, we're a program, and let's just say some of the older people might come very early for their program, and Vishinantam was still going on, and that intergenerational, cross-generational, when older people hear and see that energy, vibrancy, that dynamism of the kids screaming at the top of their lungs, singing together along with you, the raffle, the music, the pizza, the prizes, the fun. And it's amazing. I loved when you promoted on Shabbos morning. You said we spawned off 2 other programs. We have a BRS on Motzei Shabbos, Avasubanim, Mother Dora Learning, and Vishinantam. And there's no contradiction between them. I will say the other programs actually were hurting this past week because everyone wanted to go to Rabbi Brody's swan song. The last Rabbi Brody.
Special.
Yeah, in fact, I'll tell you a funny story. I hope I won't get in trouble for this, for several reasons. But I was still in Avasubanim, and they were doing the raffle, and I had my son's tickets. And he was at Vishinantam. He wanted to go check out what you were doing, and his sisters were there, and his niece and nephew were there, and he wanted to check it out. So I was holding his raffle tickets, and and he won a raffle, but he wasn't in the room. So So the fact checker, who happens to be the master of raffle, stopped, and the whole room, also Avazubanim, dark and music and lights.
Right.
And he's like, Rabbi, what's the psak? Like, what's the deal? If you're not in the room but you won the raffle, do you get it? So I felt very on the spot. And I thought, for someone else, he might have said, yeah, the parent could take the prize for the kid. The kid's in the bathroom, let's say. But in this case, he was at another program, and it was me, my own son. I said, not put it back in, do another raffle. So I come home and tell my son what happened. And I said, you were in Vishinantam, you were in Avos Banam. They picked your raffle prize, but I said, put it back in. He said, why? I said, I couldn't show favoritism to you. They asked me what to do as the rabbi. I couldn't show. You know what he said to me? He goes, Hunter Biden's dad showed favoritism to him. My son's 12 years old. I said, how do you know Hunter Biden, Joe Biden? How do you know? Hunter Biden's father would have done it for him.
Yeah.
I was like,
actually,
it's a certain nachas you get when a kid like hops something.
But you know what? I think what's fun about the raffles over the years, not everyone wins every week. You always try to give kids something, like a little prize. But over the years, and again, so many years of looking back at stories, you always found that the people that needed it won. It's a strange thing to say, but time and time again. And I'm looking back now and thinking maybe he should have won. Maybe he should have been in the room. If he did win it, like
No,
maybe,
but he was checking out,
you know,
and it was amazing. Your energy was amazing, and maybe we'll even share a clip right now from the final Rabbi Brody Vishinantam, which we all know won't be the final one because you'll be back next year for a
he'll
Shabbos.
be back.
You'll guest star, but it was the final official, formal,
Exactly.
continuing
Come
one,
back as a
and it was
guest. We
packed
love
and
this
high
one.
energy and amazing. There was so much love, and I also came in for a couple minutes because my daughters were a couple of my daughters were there, and my grandkids were there. And, I said, sitting there, I go, someone's got to grab the mic and thank Rabbi Brody. So I wasn't planning on it. I really just came in to see and to sit with them for a minute and to watch you. And I just grabbed the mic because I thought it was appropriate to say thank you. And I started thanking Rabbi Brody, started thanking you. And I started thinking that 25 years, like I brought my kids to the program, and now I've come to the program with my kids and their kids. So you've run a program, Rabbi Brody, that, people came with their kids and now they're coming with their kids, their grandkids, and with their, the kids and their children. And that's a long time that the program's you've never lost steam. You never lost energy. You never grew tired. You never tried to hand it off to anybody else. You just built it. And we owe you so much for that and so much more.
It's interesting. And again, I could think to so many different programs that we started and stopped. And sometimes you look back, you say, maybe if I wouldn't have stopped that program, imagine where it would be today. Like there's a few things that you've held on to a few things, and it's amazing to be able to look back. It's just, it's mind boggling. I don't know if there'll ever be an opportunity to do something in my life. I don't know, as long as that consistent and just it's a lesson. Let's keep going.
It was great. It was powerful. So yeah, there's a lot to do. And the truth is, like, yes, Rabbi David Aaron really inspires and empowers us to do a lot. His whole mission of optimizing our lives and living with a sense of mission and making sense of this world to the best that we can to be able to get through and navigate this world. Really inspiring messages. I'm really happy that we had this conversation. And Rabbi Brody, we love you. Mazel tov on the simcha.
I love you too, man.
And we're so proud. And
just
in beginning of the Aliyah. And just the beginning of the rest of this year, celebrating this Aliyah and continuing to talk about it. So without any further ado, Rabbi David Aaron. Welcome behind the Bima with Rabbi David Aaron. Rabbi Aaron, we're so honored and privileged that you've chosen to go behind the Bima with us. I know, and we've known you for a very long time, from when Isralight in Boca Raton, Orayta, many of our young people have learned and grown. So many have consumed your books, not only gathering information, but really transforming their lives. So we're very excited to have this conversation, and we appreciate your making time for us.
Thank you so much.
So, Rabbi Aaron, when I say, from these accomplishments, and we could go one by one, and we'll talk about Isralight and its vision, we'll talk about the yeshiva, but the books and the content and the themes that you come back to and that you emphasize, that you focus on, that you inspire, aren't necessarily the ones that you even had yourself growing up in your own education, in your own background, in your own childhood. So if you had to summarize, if you had a billboard, if you got an elevator pitch with someone, you had to summarize, what do you think of the most important Jewish perspective on life? What is it that's missing that people need to live more with? What is that thing, and how did you yourself discover it and come upon it?
I think the billboard would be called Living on Purpose. And that's what I've tried to do with my life. I'm a son of a survivor. My mother was 15 years old in the concentration camp. My mother was one of those survivors that never spoke about the concentration camp. She didn't want to burden her children. So she didn't speak about it, but she screamed about it in the middle of the night when she had nightmares. And I woke up one night to her screaming, and I was bombarded with questions. Is there a God? And if there's a God, is he good? And if he's good, why is the world so bad? And if we're the chosen people, I wish I wasn't Jewish. I wish he chose somebody else. So I was set up a long time ago to be a philosopher. I was tormented by these questions, and all the books that I've written wasn't because I thought there are people out there that have questions. Let me find answers for them. All my books are my own journey to find answers to my own questions.
So living on purpose means don't just live randomly, don't just live with the momentum of life, but find that purpose and live that purpose.
Right. You have some cause. You're here for a reason. You have a mission in life. We are agents, and we have something to do here. And just like our fingerprint will never be repeated in all of history, our soul print will never be repeated in all of history. And it's all about how to live in service and how to be a channel for actualizing that unique purpose that we've come to this world to live.
How did that help you resolve with your mother, the Holocaust surviving, how does that help make sense of evil or tragedy or bad things happening to good people? How does that help guide you now in Israel, as we just lost another group of heroic soldiers next to the Kisei HaKavod, holy Kedoshim Neshamas? Why is living on purpose and with a sense of mission, how does that make sense of these tragedies?
I don't think it makes sense of these tragedies. I think it helps us cope and go on. I don't think, when people ask me, why do bad things happen to good people? I thank them for thinking I must be the Messiah, the Mashiach, because I don't have that answer. Moshe Rabbeinu didn't get that answer. I think the best we can do, and I don't think that's small, is to how to keep going forward. And, I tell my students, don't ask why this is happening to you or to us. Ask what this happening is asking of us. And so it's turn your pain into power. My wife, when she was giving birth, she was in excruciating pain, having her contractions. And in the middle of her excruciating pain, she turned to me and said, "Could you calm down?" And I was the one that needed an epidural. I was freaking out. And I said, and I was shocked that she was so calm in the middle of all that. And she said, "I might be in pain, but I'm not suffering." And then she went into another intense contraction, which certainly looked like suffering. And then she came out of that with this great, incredible calm. And she said, "Suffering is pain without purpose. This is the most purposeful pain I could ever hope to have." And so I realized, and I learned from my wife at that moment, that when you give pain purpose, it turns into power. But when you don't give pain any purpose, it turns into suffering.
Mm.
Wow. So what would you say the opposite is? And if we're not living purposely, what are people doing? The average, let's say, Orthodox person, Jew, what do you look at them and say they're missing out on something? They're not, because they're doing this,
Well,
they're not doing the
I
other.
don't like looking at someone and saying anything about them in terms of judging them. So we'll just talk in an abstract way. I think, are we getting up with some sense that I've got a reason to be here? And there's enough pain in the world that if I don't give it purpose, then what gives me any reason to get up tomorrow morning? And I think a lot of people are just kind of getting by or on automatic and just keep going with their flow. And maybe they're putting out little fires in their lives without a sense of what is the theme of all this? What's this big story that we're part of? And for me, meaning is like oxygen. I absolutely need meaning, and meaning comes from being part of a bigger story and finding your role in that story. And where is that story going? And so if a person's life is 9 to 5 and they get up in the morning and they work and they make a little more money, but what is this really, really all about? And I've had many students from all walks of life and all ages. I mean, not all ages, but, starting from 18 to 80 years old. And everybody I find are struggling with, why does my life matter? And having a lot of matter doesn't make my life matter. I'm having a lot of money and cars and, it's not enough, and people know it's not enough, but sometimes they don't know an alternative, or it's not an alternative necessarily. I'm not suggesting that people should give up their money and because they're looking for meaning. But I do ask my students, if you had to make a choice between meaning and money. Now, I'm not suggesting that you'll be poverty stricken and homeless. I'm talking about you'll have a humble home and you'll have a car and you'll have food on the table. But, so you have enough to live, modestly. But if it was between meaning and money, what would you choose? I have never met a student that ever said that I would choose money over meaning. And yet it seems in so many ways that we are making that choice in our daily life without realizing that. Am I putting more emphasis on the meaning than on the money? And am I using my money meaningfully?
There was an old comedian who had that joke, your money or your life, right? I'm thinking about it. So I guess your meaning is your life. So that is that dilemma. My question, Rabbi Aaron, is the work that Rabbi Brody, let's say, does for now in Boca Raton with Outreach and his partners program. And where we live, there's 150, 160, 170,000 Jews, 90+% of which are unaffiliated. I just came back. I I was in London. I participated in a rabbinic conference there, and what I heard from all the rabbis from across England, so many of their congregations are filled with people who are not Shomer Shabbos or regular goers, even though they may belong to an Orthodox shul. And the question everyone had from the rabbis in London who were asking this, and Rabbi Brody, you were struggling. You were looking for an answer to a question, your mother's experience. You were trying to make sense of it. And when someone comes and they're searching, they're yearning, they're looking, they're trying to make sense of it, this is the answer. How do you rattle and shake up someone who doesn't know what's missing? Someone who's living life, they live in a country club in Boca, and financially they're stable, secure, they're doing fairly well. They think that they're happy, their marriage seems like it's going well. How do you take somebody who thinks that they're living the dream and rattle them to realize that minus the meaning, you're not? And what might feel good is superficial, that you have a lot of matter, but until you feel you matter, and so on and so forth. That's the question. So the person who's looking and searching and yearning and finds Isralight and Orayta, finds Rabbi Brody and partners, finds a rabbi, reads the books, it offers an answer so much. But how do we, who are on the front lines of caring about this desperately and wanting to share this with our brothers and sisters we love, how do we get them? What's the angle, the approach to get them to even realize that there's something that needs to change?
I'm going to share with you a pretty fabulous story. In my early years, as I was aspiring to be involved with outreach, I brought a group of others just like myself that were aspiring rabbis and wanted to go into outreach to meet with Rebbetzin Youngrai, Zichron Avracha, and ask her techniques, how to do outreach. And so we met her at the Plaza Hotel. At that time, it was called Plaza Hotel. And I say to her, and there were about 10 of us, and I say, Rebbetzin Youngrai, we're all aspiring outreach professionals, and we'd like to know your secrets, your techniques, how to reach a Jewish person. And so she turned to one of us and said, well, how did you get involved with Judaism? And the guy said, well, I saw a flyer and it made a lot of sense. And there was a class. So I went to the class and it was really interesting. And now today I'm religious. I said, well, how long did it take for you to go to that class after you saw the flyer? Oh, about a year later. Oh, a year later. And she basically went through each and every one of us asking this question. Everybody started off with this story. This was the narrative. My life was great. I had no questions. I had no issues. I was happy. I saw an interesting flyer. It sounded like an interesting class. I went to the rabbi's class. I went to more. And then I started embracing Jewish life into my life. And everybody at the end of her, like she was like a lawyer. She just was going at each and every one of us and questioning us. And at the end, we all ended up saying, well, I was confused. I was questioning. I had issues. And we didn't know, what is she doing? She's not answering our question. We said we want techniques on how to reach somebody. And she's just mopping the floor with each and every one of us, showing that we were all putting on a show, that we had our life together and that we were actually all struggling. So she does this for an hour and a half. And I don't know how to stop her. She says, I hope I helped you. And, we're all going to go to therapy after this. I mean, what do you helped us? I said, excuse me, Rebbetzin, I must have miscommunicated. We wanted to hear techniques, how to reach somebody. She said, I thought I just showed you the most important thing you need to know. And we don't know, what is she talking about? She says, I wanted you to all see how all of you were and still are in denial that you had problems, that you had issues, you were struggling, and you're no different than everybody else. Everybody's in denial of it. Nobody's going to tell you their questions. They themselves aren't even telling themselves their questions. All I can say is be their friend. Be warm and kind and there for them. And when they feel confident that they could trust you, they will ask their question. And that was a life-changing moment in my career to realize, don't expect them to share with you their vulnerability, that I'm in pain, that I'm struggling, that I'm looking for meaning, that, a lot of people are in denial. You can either face your problems, deny your problems, or solve your problems. Most people are in denial, but I don't know anybody that doesn't have problems. If you're human, you've got a problem. And the question is, do you think that Judaism has a solution to your problem? And a lot of people, even the ones that are aware of their problems, do not think that Judaism has anything to do with or anything valuable to share that will address their problem. And that's That's what I do. That's what I try to do.
Is there a way to scale that? And as Rabbi Goldberg mentioned, some very, very big numbers just here in South Palm Beach, right? 180,000, 50,000, whatever the numbers are. London is a very big area that got a lot of Jews that are not connecting. How do you take a small group of rabbis in each of these communities and make Torah, present Torah in such a way which you can reach the masses?
Well, there's two types of Jews. First of all, there's the ones that are not searching, and
Right.
I still believe deep inside they are hurting. I don't believe they're not hurting. I think they've used a lot of Western culture a lot of Western culture is one big painkiller. We're constantly avoiding our pain. But some people are aware of their pain. I think there's a lot of people that are aware of their pain and would like to talk to somebody, but they don't think they're going to talk to a rabbi, because what has he got to do with this? I'll talk to a therapist. I'll talk to a counselor or something, or I'll go for another vacation, or I'll drink a little more, or. So I think the first thing that we need to do is, in advertising, the ultimate question that every advertisement commercial must answer is, what's in it for me? And most people think that what's in it for me in Judaism is fear and guilt. We have a branding problem. If you say Christianity, what comes to people's minds? Love and forgiveness. When you say Buddhism, what comes to people's minds? Spirituality and mindfulness. When you say Judaism to people, what comes to their mind? Fear and guilt.
Yeah.
We have a serious branding problem. We have a really serious branding problem. And what we need to do is what companies do when they have a serious branding company, when they have a serious brand problem, is we need to rebrand ourselves. I think, Hashem, the way most Jews understand Hashem, has a serious branding problem. You say Jesus, and right away, love and forgiveness. You say Buddha, spirituality, mindfulness. You say Hashem, oh, guilt, fear, and Holocaust. Holocaust comes up too, And so we have a real serious branding problem. But, I met a fellow who's in the Smicha program, and his mother left Judaism, became a Buddhist. And his mother told him that she has yet to have met a Buddhist leader in America that's not Jewish.
Hmm.
So I think there's a lot of Jews that actually are searching, but they don't think we've got the goods. And they just won't go to our brand because they already have in their heads, in the back of their minds, oh, I'm not going to go to a religion full of rules and restrictions and fear and threat and even, right now I'm learning with my students the teachings of Rav Kook on Yirat Shamayim. Yirat Shamayim, translated as fear of God, is probably one of the most dangerous and one of the biggest turnoff, concept in Judaism. Like, who wants to be afraid? Who wants to live in fear? The Slonim Rebbe says that all of Yiddishkeit, and it's not a Kiddush to say all of Yiddishkeit, all of Judaism is about coming close to Hashem. You wouldn't want to come close to someone you're afraid of.
Mm.
Right. So clearly there's a misunderstanding that people think that fear of God means I'm afraid of God, that I live under threat of God. I'm worried he might hurt me. A lot of people have these confusions, and we need to solve that. But the first thing is how to get people in the door. And I think there's a way that modern marketing knows how to interest people. And I think we need to turn to those experts, and I bet you a good few of them are Jewish.
The marketing, the marketing and branding issue is both klapei chutz. It's the way the world views Judaism, and even more importantly, until we know who we are, until we believe in ourselves, until we're projecting the right brand and image, we got to do it internally. So I want to go back to your life, right? You're young. You're now an adolescent philosopher trying to make sense of life. Where did you grow up? And God forbid not to say anything negative about the teachers or schools or influences in your life early, but the system apparently didn't provide the answers. You have now spent your life writing and lecturing and creating other platforms to give this answer. The system didn't. At what point did you realize that you weren't going to find the answer within the system the way it is? Not to suggest this.
I wasn't in the system. I was at a Hebrew school that was 2 hours a day after my public school. And that was just a unpleasant experience, zero feeling of adding any value to my life. In fact, it was robbing me of the opportunity that all my friends had, which was after school to go watch Batman and Superman. And now somebody's trying to convince me that Moses and Aaron are superheroes. Come on, you know what I mean? Like,
Where in the world? Where did you grow up? Which area?
I grew up in Toronto, Canada.
Toronto. Okay.
Right. I have a Brooklyn accent because I made Aliyah, so I learned how to speak New York.
Oh,
Yeah, so I grew up knowing I was Jewish. My parents told me that at my bar mitzvah, I wouldn't have to go to Hebrew school anymore. That would be my bar mitzvah gift. And my bar mitzvah was a moneymaker. I just thought it was, everything I thought about is how to get them to add more zeros to their checks in terms of the gifts. There was no meaning. It was unpleasant. I was beat up for being Jewish. The kids beat me up because I killed Jesus. I told them I don't even know the kid. I never even played with the kid. I didn't know. I don't know Jesus, And so I grew up not feeling so happy about being Jewish. I wasn't proud of it. I didn't feel it was any gift. It was no blessing. It was a burden. But then somebody suggested that I go to some program called Free Torah High. And I said, well, if it's free and you get high, but Torah was Judaism.
I'm in.
And it was hosted by NCSY. And I don't know. I realized maybe I should go. So I went. And there was a class called introspection. And I said, oh, I'm not going to that one. That's exactly what I don't need anymore. Because I was I was in denial of my tormented soul. I did everything I could to not listen to my soul that kept asking for what's the purpose and point of all this. But I decided to go to that class. And the guy that gave the class was a very, really interesting, colorful, funny guy that loved being Jewish and had tzitzis and a kippah, and I didn't understand how that's possible. Anybody loved being Jewish. So I came back to another class, and then, he invited me to a Shabbaton. And then I suddenly discovered that Judaism is beautiful. Judaism is powerful. Judaism is elevating and inspirational. And that I didn't know that had anything to do with Judaism. I suddenly found a Judaism that wasn't about the pain and the past, but about the power and the future of what we can do. So that's kind of where it started, where I was surprised that I definitely had a branding issue with my tradition and my heritage and my identity. And suddenly I got a better brand, or a better approach to the brand. When I went to Israel when I was 18 to a gap year yeshiva. And I was most interested in the classes in machshava and philosophy because I was such a philosophical kid asking all these questions all the time. And then I got involved with the teachings of the secrets of Torah, Pnimius Torah, the inner secrets. And because I'm a very systematic kind of a thinker, I like to see things in systems. I found the teachings of Chassidut and the teachings of the Arizal very much of a draw, because I was looking for a system. Judaism seemed to be bits and pieces and a nice idea here and a nice idea there, but what's the big picture? And that is what I have been basically driven to articulate, is the big picture that gives meaning to the details.
And did you stay in Israel after that? From then on in, did you ever end up coming back?
Yeah. Now, I came back when I got my smicha. I got a job as to work for B'nai B'rith. It was a experiment, because B'nai B'rith, although it calls itself non-denominational, but I don't think there was any Orthodox employees at the time. I think I was the first one. So I worked there for a year, but my soul, just was pining for going back to the land of Israel. So I eventually went back to Israel, and I started teaching in different yeshivot. And then I started my own outreach program called Isralight, which morphed into a gap year yeshiva called Orayta.
Who would... Go ahead, Rabbi.
Yeah, I was wondering, is Isralight, which now morphs into Orayta, is it because you believe at that age, let's say 18 or 19 years old, it's the best opportunity to try and educate people with this understanding, or
not necessarily. No, it's because I feel that this age group is the future leaders of our people. And so I want to, at a certain stage in my career, I felt that I want to pass the baton on. Who's going to be the next generation that'll be leaders and they can teach these types of teachings? So in a certain way, the things I teach are more appropriate to adults. But a lot of adults are kind of like past their prime in terms of now they're going to be leaders, and they're already kind of, they might be leaders, but these 18-year-old guys they're just heading for leadership, whether they're going to be rabbis or whether they're going to be on boards of schools or whether they're going to get into Israel activism or whatever, whatever it is. But so, yeah.
Who were the influences in your life? I know you got smicha from Itri and other places that you learned, other rabbanim that you've been drawn to. Is there a particular Hasidus or Svarim within Hasidus? Who are the living and no longer living influences that have shaped your view and given you your sense of mission?
So I became very close to Rav Shlomo Fisher Zichron Livracha, and he invited me to start learning together privately. We learned every day for about 3 hours a day, learning the texts of the Arizal. And I went, and at the end of every session, I came up with some kind of hopefully interesting question that I could ask him his thoughts on. One of the questions I asked him is, where can I find the Torah that will set my soul on fire? And he said, Rav Kook and Rav Tzadok, the Lubliner Rebbe. And I was surprised because he had never mentioned Rav Tzadok or Rav Kook in all the time that we'd spent. And I said what most people offer as a critique of Rav Kook. I said, but where's Rav Kook's sources? And my Rebbe, Rav Shlomo Fisher, said, Kol Torah Kulo, the totality of Torah. If Rav Kook were to give you this midrash or that Gemara or that Zohar, you still wouldn't see it. You'd have to know all of Torah to know that this is the pshat, this is the most fundamental understanding of it. Now, if Rav Shlomo Fisher says that to me, then I said, okay, because when I would ask Rav Shlomo Fisher a question, where does it say X? He would scan the entire Torah in his head. He'd go, it's not in the Chumash, it's not enough, it's not in the Midrash, it's not in the Zohar, it's not in the Gemara. And they go, oh, wait, it is in the Zohar. He passed that a long time ago. And then he would go to his shelf and pull it off and open it up and say, here it is. So he was so incredibly, he just knew it all. It was unbelievable. And he says to me, Rav Tzadok and Rav Kook. So that set me on a journey to start learning the texts of Rav Tzadok and Rav Kook. So I'm most influenced by their teachings, but I'm not, fixated on anybody. Wherever I can get wisdom that will help me make sense out of the basics, because I find the basics are the most profound, the most essential, and yet often the most neglected in Jewish education. I'll give you an example. I ask my students, what does the word Baruch mean? And they all right away say, blessed. And I say, okay, great. What does blessed mean? And they look at me. I said, when you say, blessed are you, Hashem, what did you say? They say, thank you. No, we got a word for thank you. That's model lefanecha. Okay, what did you say? And it's amazing. This word comes up over and over again. And rarely have I met anybody that knows what the word Baruch means. Rav Soloveitchik says that if he were asked to sum up all of Judaism in a few words, he would say it's Baruch Atah, that all of Jewish life is living and acting Baruch Atah. Things like that. I just met a fellow. He'd even done a gap year yeshiva, and he's struggling. And we're talking, and I said, you're struggling, but I'm not sure you're struggling with an understanding of Judaism. He's not really completely with the program. I said, but you don't even know the program. And I asked him basic questions in Judaism, and he had years of studies of Torah, and he went to a gap year, and even afterwards he continued his studies, but he's still struggling. And I'm asking him basic questions on Judaism, and he doesn't have answers. He's never even heard this. And the way I begin the year is I do Birkat Torah, because I figure that's a great way to start the year. We'll do the blessings that we say, every morning in preparation for the Torah of the day. And I asked the students, how many of you ever studied the Birkat Torah? Very few. And I thought, like, well, but here's something that we're saying every day. It's supposed to set the stage for the Torah that we say. Surely the Chachamim, the sages, have encoded in these blessings. What does it mean to learn Torah? How to learn Torah? What's the goal of learning Torah? And it's all there. You just read it carefully. It's all there. So I think we got to go back to basics.
But do you find that there are a lot more people post October 7th that are now looking for the basics? Have you seen an uptick?
Yes. Well, I think a lot of people have been shocked by, like suddenly they're waking up to, wow, somebody hates me enough to want to kill me just because I'm Jewish. Why? Why is that so important to them and not important to me? That it's so important to them that they would even risk their lives to take my life. Like, so a lot of people are in question mode, and the anti-Semitism that is just torn through the world. Even I, as a son of a survivor, I actually thought that anti-Semitism was nothing like this. I mean, we scratched the surface and go, whoa, like, wow, I didn't think it was there so much. I thought, yeah, sure, there's still anti-Semitism, but I thought it was passe, I think a lot of people are waking up. Who are we? Why? There's a Jewish comedian who said, I actually prefer anti-Semitism. I'd rather people hate me before they get to know me. So, when somebody hates me and they don't even know me, so they know something about me that I don't know. What is it? I think this is a really opportune time. Sadly, when things are rough, that's when a lot of people wake up and ask the questions. But I think people are more receptive to start listening, but they need to hear a Torah that is not what they expected to hear, or the Torah that a lot of them don't know anything about Torah. But again, branding wise, if you ask the person on the street what's Judaism about, they'll probably say rules and probably say fear and guilt and Holocaust and things like that.
So if someone's listening to Behind the Bima, they're watching or listening to Behind the Bima, and they're introduced to Rabbi David Aaron, like, wow, this is a language I can connect with, and this is waking me up, and I want more of this. I want to start studying that Pneumius. I want to tap into that eternity. What should they start with? And it can't be a Rabbi Aaron book. 8 bestsellers, and your books capture so much of this, and certainly they should buy and read all of those. But if it's not one of your books, is there an area of Torah? And I'm talking, let's say we're not talking about the unaffiliated, uninitiated. We're talking about maybe the disaffected, the gap year, the one whose parents spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on their Jewish education, only to leave a dispassionate, uninspired, confused, not even know that something's missing, someone collecting a lot of matter instead of mattering. And now they hear you, they hear us in this conversation. They say, I'm going to start a chavrusa. I'm ready. I'm leaning in. What's safer?
Well, I don't think you'll be surprised to hear that it's a sefer of Rav Kook. Anything. Today there are a lot of Rabbanim that are writing and translating Rav Kook and offering commentary Rav Kook. But I think people will be pleasantly surprised to hear a very different approach, which was the tradition. Rav Kook is not making this stuff up. But I've been most impacted by Rav Kook. I think Rav Kook is answering many of the questions that we're struggling with. He lived from 1865 to 1935, so there's that big transition from the 1800s to 1900s when philosophy and the Industrial Revolution and a lot of things, kfira is becoming, heresy is becoming a popular movement. And Rav Kook has this beautiful article on the spiritual contribution of atheism. Imagine that. That isn't that interesting? He asks, there must be some providential reason why Hashem has allowed for this. And it's just really paradigm shifting. It really is.
Tell us about Isralight. I know it morphed into Orayta. Is it still active on its own? Are there still getaways there?
Isralight isn't a place. It's a website. It's content. It's an approach. It's a curriculum, and it's being applied to 18-year-olds. It can be applied to other ages and other stages of Jewish involvement. But it's a shita. It's an approach.
But there's the not conference, the weekends and Shabbatons and those are.
We were going to do that. When we started Orayta, we were going to do both, but Orayta took off so much, became so popular, and required so much resources, human and other. So it turned out that that's really the focus of it all.
So tell us about Orayta then, because I know Orayta has a little bit of an unusual philosophy, and obviously correct me if I'm wrong, but I've had the privilege to speak there. We've recruited for our yeshiva from there, and we have students. Rabbi Brody's own son-in-law, has a relationship with you. My understanding is Orayta's approach is sort of, we're not going to indoctrinate or force anyone anything. If we can't inspire you enough about davening and you don't come to davening, no one's going to hold that against you, check in on you, or consider you absent. Is that accurate?
No, it's not accurate.
Oh, okay.
We will not force you to daven, but you do have to show up to tefillah. In other words, we're a community, and you can't have some guy sleeping in bed while the other guys are going to minyan. We all go to minyan, and we're not going to force you to pray. Not going to force you to put on your tefillin. You can sit there and learn, but we're together. It's a program you signed on. That's what we do. I don't believe in forcing anybody to pray. You know what I mean? Hopefully, I'll be able to inspire them to want to pray and understand it. But at Orayta, if you miss minyan in the morning, then you are invited to a shiur at 2:15 in the middle of your break. So you'll have a little bit more of a motivation to get up for minyan. And then at that break, you're it's not a punishment. It's just, let's talk about what your issues are and why you're not getting up. But it's not like we're going to confiscate this, or we're going to, that's not our approach. Look, I don't think it works. Even if you did use that approach, I don't think it works. And if it does work, it only modifies behavior, but it doesn't transform people.
What year did Orayta start? How many years are we into it?
17 years.
17 years. And what have you seen over those 17 years? Obviously, the world has changed radically. Technology has changed. So in terms of the boys themselves, the students, the Bachrim, those who attend Orayta, could you give us a little insight from what you've seen in the change of those 17 years, from your opening group of students to the students today? What are some of the challenges, opportunities? How have things changed with the students?
Look, when we started Orayta, you're starting the yeshiva. It's not an easy thing to sell people. So you basically say yes to anybody that moves. You move? Oh, you're Jewish? Okay. But we actually, in our first year, got some really good guys, but there wasn't a tremendous selective process. Now we've got a lot of guys that are applying. And so we can choose the guys that we think are best suited for what we do. The yeshiva essentially is, for lack of a better term, a very comprehensive approach. A lot of places put a lot of emphasis on learning Gemara almost all day long. When I went to yeshiva, we learned Gemara all day long. We learned half an hour of halacha before Shachrit, and we learned a half an hour of Musar before Ma'ariv. But other than that, it was Gemara all day long. Here we take all our topics seriously. We learn Gemara seriously in the morning and at night. Well, we also have serious shiurim and Chumash. We have serious shiurim and machshavam and emunah and halacha. We aspire to give people a balanced meal that is addressing the heart and the mind and the soul. There's good singing and dancing and very spirited Shabbatot. And so basically, we're just trying to give people something that's whole and balanced and has all the ingredients together.
You've seen young people's attention span change with the advent of technology? Are you competing now for their attention because of the internet, technology, smartphones?
Yeah, absolutely.
Even 17 years ago to today, there's so much.
Teenagers with their phones, and their level of concentration has been impacted. That's for sure. But we still are making tremendous strides with these guys, and trying to tell them, put your phone into a little box on my table. We don't do that. We try to empower them and get them to want to be at the shiur and point out, during one of my shiurim, I had them take a 5-minute break, not a break, but to look at this text. While they were looking at the text, one of the boys was looking at his phone underneath the desk. So I took my phone out and I sent him a message. I said, he was looking at it and went, and he looked up.
That's
great.
great.
Right.
Good move.
Okay. So basically, when I catch a guy looking at something underneath this table, then I will send them a WhatsApp after class and say, "Forgive me, but I think you were distracted perhaps by your phone. Am I wrong?" And they generally will say, "You're not wrong, and I apologize and won't do it again." That's the way I try to do it. Try to be patient and try to inspire. Um, I just think that's what the generation needs and is going to respond to.
For sure.
Yeah. Between Mechamaras, maybe at shul, I'll send out a group text from your phone or Rabbi Moskowitz's phone to the whole
Yeah.
shul.
Yeah, we find it's
Like,
not good students.
you
It's
know,
adult.
if that's
Man, you get
yeah,
up to Shemar Kamarav and give it Dvar Torah, and everyone's looking at their phones.
right. So I'm just wondering, just a few quick things in my head, and it's like spinning here with all these things that you're saying. When you started the yeshiva, yeshivas start all over Israel. You weren't just starting it in Yerushalayim, but you started in the old city. So first of all, question one is I'm wondering, how important is it to you that the yeshiva is in the old city of Yerushalayim? And question number two is, do you think that's something that could be done with adults? Let's say you have some adults in our shul that maybe they don't, let's say Shacharis on Shabbos is 9 o'clock and they show up at 9 o'clock, 9:30 or 9:45. Would you say, hey, let's talk about it during the week? Is there something going on? Like I was never approached by my rabbi post yeshiva and saying, well, hey, what's going on? Is there a reason you don't want to come earlier? Would they be annoyed by something like that? I'm just wondering what you would say.
I don't know. What I do know is when parents come to my shiurim, they love it more than the kids do. I think the adults are even more ready for the kinds of things that I'm teaching. The 18-year-olds are getting it too, but the older you are, the more vintage your questions become. An answer is only as good as your question, and as you get older, the question gets more potent. I think it's all about education. I mean, I've got a course on Shemona Esrei. I go word for word. What are we saying? What's the structure of Shemona Esrei? What are we trying to accomplish? And it's now meaningful. So it's hard, it's hard for somebody to go to shul and they don't know what they're saying. They don't know who they're saying it to. They don't know why who they're saying to would be interested in hearing what they have to say. As a kid, when I went to synagogue, I just didn't understand any of this because I thought, why can't we I remember the rabbi used to call out pages. I thought, why don't we do that? Just say Master of the Universe, page 18. Why do I have to say this and not understand this? And it's just amazing how just basic things that we do every day, we haven't really spent a lot of time or maybe even any time understanding what we're actually saying when you say Baruch Atah Hashem Elokeinu Melech Haolam Asher Kiddushanu means stuff. That's all of Judaism right there. My course in Machshava, in my philosophy class, is just that. I'm actually writing a book on it, and it looks like it's going to end up being 25 chapters because I go through every single word, what it actually means, and then of course I sum it up. But if I don't know what I'm saying, how can I enjoy that? How can that fill me up? It's simple.
The yeshiva is not in New York. It's not in Boca. It's not in the diaspora. It's in the heart of Yerushalayim. It's in Israel. Talk to us a little bit about the last year and a half in Israel, how this war has impacted you, your students, your family, who's serving, the horrific losses, and even the most recent news of this. It seems like a handshake on a ceasefire. That to many it's very welcome. To others, it's devastating and disastrous. Hopefully. I daven hard because I don't feel entitled to an opinion, certainly from Chutz La'aretz. We daven hard. It doesn't divide us, this ceasefire, because that's how we got into this to begin with. We were so divided. Talk to us a little bit about your experience personally and how you see your responsibility as a Rosh Yeshiva of a yeshiva of gap year students who are living through history, which we always are every day, but particularly now.
I heard of a fabulous shiur from Rabbi Tursky Zechron Bracha. He did a shiur on the Jewish response to suffering, and really excellent. And so he asked the audience, how many people here have grown from joyous occasions? Not a lot of people put their hands up. He said, how many people here have grown from painful occasions? And a lot of people put up their hands. He said, I'm just pointing out that we seem to grow from pain more than from pleasure. And I think the boys, because of the pain that we're witnessing during these times, has brought them to think a lot more, take it more seriously, feel more identified with the Jewish people. And sadly, sadness is something that puts people in a state of mind of greater seeking and greater thirst for clarity. So I think it's contributed to the seriousness of their learning and the groundedness of their desire to grow as Jews. For whatever reason.
You see this in the context of not just a war with statistics, but this is Geula, like within the Torah of Rav Kook. Is this all part of unfolding Geula? Is that part of your message?
It's something I believe, but it's not so much part of my message. It's something I believe, but it's not something that I keep harping on. Like, this is the Geula, don't worry about it. I'm not even comfortable saying it. I think it's a little too easy to kind of like, I was with my granddaughter. I took her out. My daughter lives in Beth El. I took out my granddaughter's 4 years old, and I took her to the playground. And as soon as we walked out of the house, she said to me, "Saba, if there's a siren, we have to go right away into a bomb shelter." That's the first thing she thought about. And so I played a little dumb and I said, "Well, where is a bomb shelter?" And she said, "Oh, they're everywhere." Everything is a bomb shelter. And then I said to her, "Well, what is this? How will I know it's a siren? What will it sound like?" She's 4 years old. She thought, and she said, "Like somebody crying." Sounds like somebody crying. I think we're all traumatized in at different levels, but it's and it goes back to what my wife taught me. If you give your pain purpose, it'll turn into power. If you don't give it any purpose, it's going to turn into suffering. So we talk about meaning. We talk about what's it about. How can we contribute? What role can I play? My responsibility to the Jewish people, my responsibility to the world. And it goes back to live on purpose. Don't just get up and keep doing what you did because that's what you do, but look for a way to contribute and be a player, and not just, just be someone in the audience watching the game.
Love that. Very powerful. Rabbi Aaron, thank you for going behind the Bima with us, sharing this perspective.
Thank you so much for inviting me, and a pleasure to chat. Thank you so much.
Thanks for all that you do, and we really encourage everyone to take advantage of the books. There's so much more of this teachings, and there's so much more to talk about, which hopefully we will. So thank you. Stay safe and well, and may we hear Besoros Tovos.
Thank you so much.
Catch us next time for another peek behind the Bima.